So once again, thanking you, General Suri, for sharing your valuable insights, experience and your reflections on operational readiness, aviation capability, and the strategic role of maintenance and defense aviation have given us all in this room so much to think about.
Yes, absolutely. A brilliant start to the day. And now we're going to move on to our first business session of the day, as General Suri said. We're going to be talking about safer skies for civil defense MRO. As aircraft fleets expand and aviation technologies become increasingly sophisticated, the role of maintenance, repair and overhaul has never been more critical to ensuring safety and operational reliability. Beyond technical expertise, building a strong safety culture, ensuring regulatory compliance, investing in predictive maintenance, and developing a highly skilled workforce are essential pillars of a resilient aviation ecosystem. This session will explore how both civil and defence MRO stakeholders are strengthening safety frameworks while scaling capacity to meet the demands of a rapidly growing aviation market.
And now, to lead this important discussion, we take pleasure and the privilege in inviting our moderator and illustrious panelists, starting with our moderator, VRS Raju, Air Vice Marshal AVSM, VSM, PhD from the Indian Air Force. Let's give him a nice warm round of applause and welcome him up to the stage. Welcome, sir. And as you join us, sir, it is a pleasure to invite our illustrious panelists who will join you. We'd like to take the pleasure inviting Ashok Gopinath, President and Accountable Manager, GMR Aero Technic. Welcome, sir. And let's keep the applause going as we invite Arun Kumar, Bansal, Vice President, Engineering and Maintenance, SpiceJet Airlines. Welcome, sir. We'd like to welcome Arnaud, Taurignan, the Customer Service Director, Dedienne, Aerospace Crew. Welcome, sir. And keep the applause going as we invite the DRG Jamal, Taha, TM, Indian Coast Guard. Welcome, sir. Thank you for joining us. And finally, we'd like to invite Aanchal, Aggarwal, Assistant Vice President in West India. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us. And now that we have our illustrious panelists up on stage, we're looking forward to some fruitful discussions. So with that, we'd like to hand over to Mr. VRS Raju. Sir, please do take this discussion forward.
Marshal, Shera, Arun, Suri, distinguished guests. Good morning to everybody. I take this privilege and opportunity to moderate this very important session, and I welcome all the panelists, experts in their own field, highly experienced, who can directly contribute to the theme and the discussions which we are going to have in next 40 minutes or so. Aviation assets are high-performing equipment. All of us are aware of the extreme operating conditions. You have the engines operating at 15,000 plus RPM, operating beyond 1500 degrees centigrade temperature, high pressures, transonic airflows, high speeds, extremely high landing and braking loads. This all call for a stringent MRO both for the military and the civil aviation sector. And this will directly contribute to the high op availability of the aircraft, both in the commercial sector and in the defense sector. At the same time, we need to ensure the highest safety and reliability standards, which will contribute to high customer satisfaction and the market share of each operator. In the talks given by eminent speakers yesterday and today, General Suri has set the ball rolling. The government policies have been covered. The number of assets, the numbers have been covered today, and yesterday AOM also covered the same. The military sector has about 3,000 aircraft. and very soon the civil sector also will have close to 3,000 aircraft. The maintenance part, one speaker from Indian Air Force covered yesterday on the ERP solutions. Jointly, both civil sector and the military sector have got a lot of resources which can be leveraged for a good MRO ecosystem. We have the engine test beds, both with the Air Force and HAL, as covered sometime now by the General. HAL has already started offering their services to the civil sector, and this can be leveraged optimally. We have the avionics, big wigs like the Bharat Electronics, again a DPSU. The potential is there which can support the civil sector. Within Indian Air Force and HAL, we have state-of-art composite repair sections. Lot of the major platforms, the unmanned sector, UAVs and all, they are repaired at 11 BRD, both for the Army and for the Navy. We have exceptionally good, well-established, non-destructive examination facilities. What the defense sector can offer is already there, well-transparent system in the Srijan portal that can be exploited by the civil MRO sectors. And of course, we were having some offline discussions also. The civil sectors can be in touch with HAL and sign separate contracts for certain of their requirements. Coming to the regulatory body, CIMILAC for the military is now very, very well established and a transparent regulatory body. We expect the car requirements to meet the FAA standards. Coming to the other resources, human resource, we have trained and well-groomed citizens as the ex-servicemen, ex-air warriors, sailors and from the Indian Army. And now, as per the government policy, the Agniveers who have finished the initial engagement of 4 years, they will be available in the civil sector very soon. 75% of the Agniveers who will move out and hang their uniform, they are trained, they have the basic military training and they have also been employed in the aviation sector. So they are good resources for employing in the civil sector. Financial losses for having the aircraft on ground, let it be in the military sector or civil sector, they are huge. It affects the market, it affects the op availability. To address this, there are some questions which need to be answered. Are we doing enough? What are the problem areas? What needs to be done more? We have the expert panelists. I request each panelist to share your views and your organization's views, taking about 7 to 8 minutes each, and then we can have some discussion after each one of you finishes off with by conveying your views. You can also express how to do it, some suggestions from your side, so we can take some important lessons, both for short term and in the long term. We can carry forward the takeaways, and from each organization we can try to push through so that we can integrate the civil and defense MRO ecosystem within the country. So I first request our panelists from the investment sector to cover your views.
I feel the rate at which the fleet is increasing, we currently have it inducted about 850 aircrafts, which is going to increase to 1800 by 2035. And we see 70 to 90% of our MRO services are leveraged from outside. This creates about $2.5 to $3 billion of foreign exchange drain, but it's a value capture for the Indian market. I feel that we need to make India a global hub, and there are different areas that we need to work on. One is creating a world-class MRO infrastructure and supply chain ecosystem. And as in West India, we are the national facilitation arm of the Government of India under the Ministry of Commerce. And our work mandate is actually to get these global investors to help facilitate our domestic market through joint venture partnerships. So to create that supply chain, I feel that we should get, a lot of these greenfield MRO clusters, dedicated MRO clusters into the Indian market. We should look at targeting, global OEMs who once see India as a market. Their tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 suppliers would eventually then look at India as a market, and this will open doors for our domestic MRO operators to collaborate with them. So essentially, I see that as one point. The second point I feel, and of course, Marshal has spoken about, that we have to talk about regulatory efficiency and complying by global standards to help create a global confidence and airline trust. And how Invest India can help in that is first we help in expediting clearance and approvals for whether it's greenfield or brownfield global investors looking to invest into the Indian market. Could be with collaboration with domestic players, that MRO players that already exist into the Indian market. We also help in negotiating very competitive packages at the central and the state level. I feel that is going to help a lot of global OEMs and tier 2, tier 3 suppliers to look at India as a market. And I think the third important thing that Invest India as an organization could help is studying best practices and helping replicate these best practices through policy recommendations to the government. Because as an organization, we work very closely with the Ministry of Civil Aviation and the regulatory bodies like GCA. And I think the third important factor that when we look at creating India a global hub is skill development, and equally important is retention of that skill. How are we going to do that is by looking at a lot of training infrastructure related investments. Having these dedicated MRO hubs where there is training infrastructure, which of course could be seen in collaboration with industry and academia coming together. And also, if you look at what Tata is doing, getting a lot of investments, because I think technology is the future, looking at virtual and augmented reality and simulation models. I think that is something that we can look at creating skill development very quickly and bridging that gap between the required AMEs and skilled manpower. I feel retention of the skilled labor is also extremely important. If you see globally in countries like Dubai and Singapore, the attrition rate is about 8 to 10%. However, in a country like India, it's approximately 22%. So I think it's not only, so a company invests a lot of money in training skilled manpower, but it's not only a drain for the company, but also as a country. So I think as an industry, we need to work towards having better salary packages or compensation packages for our skilled workforce, a better charted out, skill progression or a job progression, and how we can have job security for the skilled manpower. So I think these are the three important pillars that can help us, bridge the gap between, the yawning gap between what is the demand that is required in our country and how there has been so much outflow of currency in terms of, MRO opportunities going abroad.
Very good morning to you all. First of all, thanks MRO for giving us the opportunity to speak in this forum. I got an issue with this safer skies for civil MRO. I think what do we require is safer grounds for civil and defense MRO. And if I further elaborate, it's like finding out common grounds to have a civil and MRO defense sector. So, ladies and gentlemen, I will, with being as an engineer, we generally don't talk about the money matters, but I'll just try to speak it out regarding the latest report of the NITI Aayog, which was published in October 2022. And what does it speak about it? Suri sir has just given you the broad overview of the defense aircraft assets, but the NITI Aayog, as well as the civil sector, speaks about it, that there are 713 aircraft. This report was published in 2022, and 1,000 aircrafts are also going to be added. The total MRO business, what this NITI Aayog says, is of $1.7 billion, and which is going to be augmented to $4 billion by 2031. Now, if a country like us has got 1,731 civil aircraft available at this, and Singapore and Malaysia, they have done a great collaboration with the original equipment manufacturers and done their own MROs. I think it is time for India to tap our own resources and move in the right direction so that at least we can gain inroads and try to capture. What does this report speak about it? That we should stop talking about the free labor or the labor which is cheap here in India. What we should try to focus it, number one, to the turnaround time, which is very much relevant. It's something which is being serviced within our country, then definitely we can save lot many hours to take the aircraft and coming back, and of course the related issue which we just eliminate by carrying out the servicing there, number one. Second point is that the kind of the workforce what we have got, if we can tell it to the industry that we are the quality assurance guys, then definitely this is an important aspect which can be passed down to the area. And thirdly, foremost part is the ease of business. So these NITI Aayog is concentrating, focusing on these three aspects, not on the one which generally Asia speaks about it, that we got a cheap labor or the labor which we can get in a lesser fashion altogether. Now, what does it say that if you see the MRO, top MROs, if you see from the civil sector, I think it is AIVs here. And of course, if you see it from public sector, where we got more experience also, that is HAL. Now, if you look at the HAL has got a workforce of the order of 30,000 people, and they have got designers, the maintainers, the productions, everybody is available. Now, if you have a collaboration of these 30,000 workforce, which people say that this is one of the biggest organizations in Southeast Asia in terms of the manpower, and I always say that in case if we talk about the aviation in India, it is HAL or vice versa. So these two guys, in case if they come together and try to do something, I'm sure the objective of the civil as well as defense can be catered for. Suri sir has started something at Pathankot and Missimari, and I am sure now started showing some results, where HR has been given some specific place where they, instead of the item is going all the way to Bangalore, they can come and do the needful closest to the squadron where the aircraft is being exploited for. So I feel it so that these are the common grounds where we can work on. And if you see these services, the kind of an experience, number one, the kind of a discipline what we have got, sometimes you have to blow your own trumpet also, and the fitness level what generally the people talk about it, these are something which is important for any industry. If you see the discipline, I think all our uniform guys will agree with me that tool tally mechanism what we have got in our services. Tally is a currency through which you are giving your tools. The concept of the supervisory the independent checks, the near miss paths, the fatigue and the stress, which is a hidden, foe for us. How the people supposed to work in a stress condition. These are the advantageous part where we can actually get a lot of gains into it. And one of the common factors to resolve these issues is what? Number one, that if you have got a manpower which is trained, qualified, and oriented to the task, I find no reason that why we can't develop it. Why can't we achieve our aim of the country? So I think time is never on your side. Let me stop here and then we'll come back again.
Thank you, DIG Taha. Now request Mr. Arnaud to share his views.
Hello, thank you everyone to be here today. I will try to bring a point of view and start of answer in the topic that brings us today. So we have mainly two questions. The first one being what it requires to scale the capability to answer the MRO demands. Because the question is not, is there the demand? It's more how we answer the demand. So which levers we need to work on in order to create the capability and scale it. The second one being, what happens if we don't have on due time this capability? And what options do we have? Regarding the first question, I trust there are four main pillars how to create the capability. First one being people, knowledge and competence. Second one being process and compliance. Third one being infrastructure and equipment. And the fourth one being the supply chain or the ecosystem. How those have to grow up. In terms of people, so it's one of the big challenge today, and not only in India actually, worldwide, there is a lack of aircraft mechanic engineers everywhere in the world right now. It will be even more true for India. Of course, there is training that needs to be set up. Of course, there is talents retained that have to be set up. What I think is, more than that, we need to create knowledge and competent engine, because retaining will not work 100%. We are in a globalized world, it will move, get in, get out, and etc. The question is how we are able to sustain the capability of creating skilled and knowledgeable person. So that will come with training programs, of course, let's say local grown up, but probably from partnerships as well or whatever. So it's more the capability of training and generating ability that will answer the need on the long term. In regard to compliance and process, not getting into the boring details, but what I think what we need to ensure is, of course, work on the regulation, setting up of the processes, but most important is make sure that on the field, we ensure the transition of the experience-based execution, which is true in many shops, to a process-based execution. Of course, we need the experience, of course, we need the skills, but fast scale will bring variability. But whatever we do, however good we are in creating this ability, it will generate variability. So now, how we make sure that we will, in pressure time, follow a process and answer the safety, which is linked to the second question. Third one was infrastructure and equipment. On this aspect, main infrastructures, of course, so requires investment and development. We hear about a lot of projects already in India, so let's say the machine is already working on it. I see two risks here. First one is really the correct, let's say, follow-up and implementation of those infrastructure, because the delay may then lower, let's say, the capability to answer the need. The other point is the underestimated, let's say, too often underestimated assets like equipment, tooling, ground support equipment, maintenance, logistics tools, and etc., which are actually so mandatory part of the OEM standards and etc. We might have the shops, we might have the skill guys, we might have everything, regulation, infrastructure. If we are in technical world, if we don't have the right tool to operate, then we are not ready. So tooling readiness is also a key point of the MRO readiness. So it's overall infrastructure and let's say hardware capability that we need to look at. Regarding the third point, supply chain and ecosystem, we'll not develop too much this topic today. What I trust is, so I will not speak much supply chain, more ecosystem. I think so we need to invest in the, let's say, I mean, of course, local capacity and etc., and to bring, let's say, capabilities also from the outside, because scalability, I mean, we can scale, yes, but only, let's say, internally or organically, even if you just look at one company, except purely digital activity, so non-physical activity, it's extremely rare that we can scale just organically. So it will require some partnerships in the idea of developing all the local in-house, let's say, capabilities. So on those 4 points, so people, process, compliance, equipment, and supply chain. What I think is there is a fifth aspect, which is orchestration. If you want to create the capability tomorrow, those 4 pillars must rise evenly at the good speed. If we miss one of them, the capability is not there. And that is the tricky part of our business. It's because we don't need only one thing. It's not only MENS, it's not only shops, it's not only process, it's all at the same time. Which leads to the second question. What is happening is, at a certain point at the execution time, we miss something. At that moment, the good question to ask ourselves is how we will react with time pressure, because as I said, TAT is everything in our sector. We really need to work on, let's say, the safety mindset and compliance. At the end of the day, the pressure will be on the field. If we have an aircraft mechanic that is missing a tool, that is out of a process or whatever, under the pressure, how he will react? Will he really warn the alarm and says, hey, we have a risk issue? Because we will miss something at some point. Let's not be fooled, right? One day we will miss something, a shop will be delayed, a tool will be missing, a skill will be missing. Now, to ensure the safety, which is one of the core questions today, is I really trust each rely at the end of the day on people. Yes, process, yes, equipment, and etc., but people. On the field, it's a human that is following the process. If he cannot feed the process, how he will react, how he will take the pressure. And then we go back on the training and to develop really the mindset of all the execution chain to say, okay, we need solutions. Now, if we don't have, how we react properly and find a proper solution. Because at the end of the day, it's not only performance, it's also safety.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Arnaud. I now request Mr. Arun Kumar Bansal to share his views.
Hello. Good morning, panelists and distinguished guests. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. the SpiceJet Airlines, and I have headed one of India's largest MRO, as I said previously. As we all know, the Indian aviation is the fastest growing market, and presently we have around 150 aircraft, and by 2035 we have around 2,000 aircraft, civil aircraft. And there is going to be MRO market worth 5.5 to 6 billion by 2035. Having this much of big market, and to keep the aircraft safe flying, we have to have the ecosystem of the MRO to keep the aircraft maintained and how to develop it. The biggest challenge is that we don't have the right now infrastructure available. A lot of our maintenance, repair activities, base maintenance are outsourced, and especially the engine side. We don't have the capability of our maintaining the engines in India. A lot of foreign exchange is going outside. As Lieutenant General Suri said, we don't have to look for the MR, we have to look for the overall. When it comes to the long-term solution of the aircraft space line, the aircraft has to be maintained. Now, there are, as far as the civil and defense MRO, if we can share the system, defense MRO has got a lot of surplus facility at a lot of locations. Like area, you can have the composite material with repair facility, their hangar facility for the painting and all that can be improved. But the biggest challenge in that is the certification part. The regulation part comes in between. You can use their facility but to be certified. That is the biggest challenge. And for the last 7-8 MROs I'm attending, and we couldn't find an exact solution of this. This is the biggest hurdle in the relation between the defense MRO and the civil MRO. I hope everybody will agree with it. Now, as Raju has said that HAL is also coming in big way in the MRO. But again, they have taken some certification part in some areas, like even they are doing the overhauling of this Hindustan 228 engines at their facility. But we can use their some common facilities, like I was talking to even Raju regarding that engine areas where we can have the common test bench, the facility of the tip grinding machines and some other areas. If they can develop those areas, and some certification part that can be done. Because in this, at least we can use the manpower, which is in the fastest growing market. The manpower again is a very big concern these days. Retaining a manpower in the civil aviation is very difficult nowadays. Because as Arnaud has said, that this attrition rate is around 20% in India as compared to 8 to 10% in the other neighboring countries. So, but as I believe Kumar could also agree that retaining the manpower these days in the global scenario, the fastest growing market is very, very difficult. Now, another area in the defense we can explore is the training part. Because in the training part, there is no certification required. Of course, there are some regulations which that can be covered. People from the defense forces can be trained on the civil aircraft or one or two months, but after that they can start giving the training. This is the area where we can explore from the defense area. And of course, another that I have talked about, that the painting, that the bench test can be utilized, the finger can be utilized, and some of the areas where the security reasons or security is not there, those areas we can always concentrate on those areas. Another area like for the airline perspective, that is the biggest challenge in this is the Indian MRO. As my colleague has said that even the logistic part in the sending an engine to outside is very, very difficult, and it takes we are losing the time for 15 days for sending one engine to another country. And the MRO takes minimum 6 months to get an engine overall, and a lot of foreign exchange. One even footprint shop visit requires around 5 million and present on the narrow body aircraft. These are the areas where we can explore the defense and civil MRO. At least we can start with something. Slowly and slowly this area will improve. This is my intake about the division defense MRO.
Thank you, Mr. Bansal. I request Mr. Ashok Gopinath to share his views.
Thank you, sir. Can I use the stage?
Morning, everybody, and thank you for giving this opportunity. Let me introduce myself first. I'm Ashok Gopinath. I am the president for the GMR Aero Technic airframe MRO based out of Hyderabad. We are India's the only international MRO, airframe MRO based out of Hyderabad, and we serve not just the Indian customers. Indian customers are basically about 40% of our total work revenue, but we serve the region, right from Far East to Middle East. We have customers across this region, where 70% of our revenue comes. That's why I say we are the truly India's international MRO. We also run a school for basic aircraft maintenance engineering and also do type training. So idea is to provide a steady source of human capital for our MRO and for the industry as such. So that's where we are. And as far as our expansion plans are concerning, we are currently focused on have a capability, full length of capability for the narrow body, but we are now putting up a wide body capability in our same location in Hyderabad to cater for the new aircraft which are being inducted into the country and across the region. That is the 350, 787 and 777 capability, including the back-end shop to support an airframe MRO. So that's where a brief introduction about our business is. Coming back to the theme of the day, civil defense MRO side, there's been a significant change in the last 15 years. If you notice what the change has been and the strategy for the government has been, what has it been actually? It's actually until now, until about 15 maybe years ago, it was entirely, the defense was done by the defense forces or the DRDO or the HAL. But today, government has opened up the defense side to the private sector. That's one thing. Secondly, in the last 15 years or so, you see the Western platforms have started coming into the fleet into the defense side. So now giving these two combinations and considering the growth of the aviation in India in general, as the country grows, aviation grows, the defense requirement also grows. We need to be, the defense has to match with our India's growing stature. So look at that. You need the entire ecosystem along with it has to grow. And our experience in the past has been that the service industry is best served by the private sector. I'm sure many of you will agree with me. Service industry is actually a domain of, private sector. They are more efficiently served. And in this way, I have a couple of suggestions how we can. It can be a little different from many others' views, but pardon me for being blunt and open on this point. We have HAL here. HAL is wonderful organization. They have, if you look at their order book today, they got more than 100,000 crore of order book they have. My suggestion will be that let them focus on the core competency. What is their core competency? Design, development, manufacturing. We still haven't developed an engine for ourselves today in the last 50 years. I think let's focus on that, and HAL should handle some of these defense sectors which are coming in now, the private sector coming in now, to get into the MRO side, which is a more of a service, and make the entire value chain more efficient, more broader, more impactful,
so that the country as a whole can grow rather than I try to do everything. I do the design, I do the development, I do the manufacturing, I do the servicing, rather than I focus on today's new age business is all about do your core competency point of view, the core competent one, and then you outsource or do the rest of the thing from get it done from outside. That's the new age business is today. You don't do everything on your own today. That's the old world system. I think this is one suggestion that I would like to give. If focus on the core competency, get the best people to do the right job. That's something. Secondly, we are HAL is there, DRDO is there, a lot of base depots are there. A lot of competency is resting in these places. It's not that we don't have competency, the capacity is all there. But somewhere we feel that it's still yet to catch up with the current trend and the pace that is required, the change that is required. I'm given to understand that there's a model where in the railways, they also have similar depots across the country. They are also now bringing in private sectors to do the maintenance point of view, the railways that is being there. Why not we look at it? It's already being followed by the government. Why not some of these base depots are opened up to the private sectors, because these all are already been capital sunk and invested. Hand it over to a transparent policy. Let the private sector who are interested come in, run the business, bring it more efficient, more operational, so that the armed forces are ready to go for the challenges that are required to country and not end up into finding out whether net is available, bolt is available, O-ring is available. Rather focus on their core thing, how to protect the nation, what they can do, what a strategy, and give this back-end job, the grease monkey's job, to the rest of the people to do it. So that's something which I would like to explore that opportunity. It's being followed, and I understand being followed in railways. Why not experimentally do it in the base depots? Another point that I would like to see from this is, of course, we talk about from our experience point of view, is the government concept today. When you go about, many of us coming from the private industry, I'm a bit hesitant to enter into a government contract because of the L1 concept. So really the relevant concept, really actually an entity who is focused on quality, technology, he will not be interested in going and bidding for this contract and then bidding. Who are you bidding with? Some non-entity, and then finally the guy, that entity takes away a contract which is probably he has quoted 10 times lower than a standard average level, and he gets the contract. Who is the loser? Not the entity, not the guy who lost the contract, but the nation lost. So I would like to request that government should incentivize and develop a SOP where especially some things like this which are critical to the nation, you carve out an exception, empower the people who are concerned to take a call, make a judgment, and see how they can. How did ISRO come up ISRO is competing with NASA and other people because they have a carved out and space for themselves. They have complete autonomy for them to do what they have to do. There's no interference from anybody. I think that kind of a rapid change in mindset is required today if, as a nation, we need to move forward. Otherwise, it will always happen that we take one step forward, two steps backward, one step forward, two steps backward. That's something which is required, drastically required. Some think tank has to come in and set up an SOP. Of course, all governance has to be followed, oversight has to be done, but it can be, it is working. Today, if you look at one of the biggest MRO today in the world today is AAR. Big portion of the revenue actually comes from their defense services provided for the US Army, the US military. They outsource a hell amount of a job to private sector. The US military doesn't do all the work for themselves. They follow a hybrid model. The same thing can be done here. So some of these things are really required. If we really want to take off, we want to really talk about catching up with the world and finding India to find its rightful place under the sun. We have to do not incremental changes, but you need to leap, jump, and forward. Only then we can catch up. Otherwise, you will find that many other countries are overtaken and gone. Though we have the size, we have the market, we have the capability, the technology, everything, but still we have all the ingredients It just said that right cook has to come and make the ingredient of soup properly and serve it. That's what is required actually. Also, as part of incentivizing the scheme, there are some offsets available. Now I understand the new process, the offsets are not being very encouraged, but where the offset was, I feel it's a good tool. But question was that how it is implemented. For example, many offsets are just ended up building some Taj Mahal and then left there and said, okay, I expended my offsets have been by building Taj Mahal. But the point is that what do I need? If I need an MRO to set up, why not we make it mandatory that the offset, a certain portion of the offset has to be mandatorily invested and developed only on this segment so that the development of that capability is developed into the country. But that kind of a rider is not there. So it's left open. So they set up a library or a school or some meeting is over and their offset is over and their job was done. But did the nation benefit? I don't think so. So certain this thought process has to be the idea that we have good process in place, but it is effective or not. Somebody has to really read it, make it effective, find out what it needs to make it effective, do that. But that is still not, this is still lacking. And now we are saying that we have done the policy of, offset is not required, it's not effective. I don't think so. Offset can really work, but the question is how you implement it. We spoke about the attrition here. I always say my personal view is India is 1.4 billion people population. We have the right age group. We have English speaking population. We have technically qualified people, university diploma available. So there's no problem. Let people go abroad. It's okay because it's one of our exports. I take it as one of our exports. Just like our IT, we export IT services. Manpower is also an export services. We factor that attrition into our calculation, build our SOPs, build our system such a way that we factor X amount stays here, X amount goes out, and still how we work. And that's one of the reasons what led us to set up our school. This was conceptualized pre-COVID time. We made it operational 2 years back. The school is running well. The intention is to provide not only for ourselves as an MRO, but also to provide to the industry. Let that people go, but we factor in. Because we have enough, whereas many other countries, they don't have the capital human number, heads are not available for them. That's the biggest ingredient required. We have that. We are blessed with that. We have a demography in our favor. English speaking, youthful people. So we have, it's just that we have to mold them, bring it to that level and deploy them to the work. Unfortunately, there are not many people available today, they are not readily deployable. So one of the objectives of our school is to make sure that the cadets that are coming out of our school are industry ready to be absorbed. That's how our curriculum is based on, our model, our practicality is based on that only. Same thing Agniveer is a concept that many of them will come out at a much younger age. We are ready to take it. In fact, we have offered our services to the defense to develop the Agniveers, how we can make an impact for them in their next stage of life, post their uniform. When they come in the civil side, if they wish to continue in aviation, we are here to support them. We will absorb them. Our school can provide them a lot of trainings, incentives to make them more marketable in their employment when they come into it. So something this needs to be done.
Thank you so much. Thank all the eminent panelists for sharing your.
Thank you.
Take your seat, and the screen is also showing time is up. And thank all the audience for your patient hearing. While a lot of views have been shared and very good, insightful suggestions, how to retain manpower, how to incentivize them. DIG Taha has made a specific mention of having a fit workforce that will give great dividends. Mr. Arnaud has told about the importance of the tooling and infrastructure readiness. That is very, very essential. Without that, you cannot commence any MRO. The certification hurdles have been covered by Mr. Bansal. And Mr. Ashok Gopinath has emphasized that the service industry, service sector should be left to the private operators, and the bigger establishments can focus on their core competencies. And thank you very much to each one of you for sharing your frank views. Thank you so much for patient hearing.
Thank you so very much, ma'am, gentlemen. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a moment where we'd like to thank all our eminent speakers. We firstly request if you could kindly step forward. I wonder if we have a little space, we get a group photograph together.
Yes.
Might be a little
Yes.
tricky.
Yes.
Or we
Tables.
we can stand right behind the tables is fine. Yeah, let's not take any chances here.
A round of applause again, please, for that wonderful session. Yes, love this energy in the morning, everyone. So thank you again to our moderator, Mr. VRS Raju, and our distinguished panelists for a very insightful discussion. We now have some small tokens of appreciation.
We
We
request